the right question to constantly ask, and increasingly this is what lawyers are for. And as we use any tools, they should be there to sign off on stuff. So while we're in school and maybe these things have lower stakes, I think it's an opportunity to maybe not think about this stuff, but I also respect people that take these things seriously and don't, and maybe they're working on something that they think is something they're sharing with CAA tomorrow. I mean, then think about these things, talk to your attorneys.
Yeah. So that is the advantage of the enterprise model, is that it is.
It is an advantage of a enterprise model that is in the fine print, and I will encourage you to talk to your attorney if you really have questions about this, because every enterprise model is different. Like free pick, if you go through their thing that they supposedly indemnify you. I don't even know what that means. I don't know how they indemnify you on all these different models, but it's in their language. Your lawyer should see if that's good enough for the distributor that you're eventually selling that film to, right? So I also want to zoom out for a second. I'm going to focus on ChatGPT because I'm guessing everybody has ChatGPT. Is that a fair guess? Does anybody not have ChatGPT? Okay. I will say the power, even like the medium power user of today is using ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, because we're at a point that they do have things that they do differently. They even sometimes kind of check each other. Like, what did this one say? Like, you're almost like having them talk about each other. But Claude, you'll see, is very much taken a bet on coding and building. And I think I really want us to get to that point in this class that you at least are exposed to that. Gemini, by virtue of its Google ecosystem, I personally like it better for interacting with the internet. I get better research relationships with Gemini. That's a taste thing. ChatGPT has similar tools. I think eventually they all kind of do the same thing. It's a bit of a taste level for you. We will effectively have Gemini for free in a few weeks, and I will show you why I think you should spend time with it. But for now, as I'm just showing the principles of using an LM, for starters, like, let's pretend I did have a screenplay, or let's do what I really did in preparation for you guys, which is I just want to adapt something. Okay, I'm taking public domain. This is Hansel and Gretel, Hans Christian Andersen. Nobody owns this. Nobody's getting ripped off. But Disney has literally built a business off of grabbing public domain stuff like Alice in Wonderland and Little Mermaid and making lots of money off of it. So nobody's getting screwed right now. I found it on the internet. Here's a PDF. Here's the story of, excuse me, the Grimm brothers. I'm misappropriating content already. Not Hans Christian Andersen, the Grimm brothers. And this is the story. I literally just dropped the entire thing into ChatGPT. And I told it, let's see, did I say it at the end of this or at the top? I said, I want to adapt this into a 5-minute short film. I also want to reimagine it and think of them as teenagers. I want to set this in the present. And I want some ideas on how to change some of the iconic features of this story into contemporary corollaries. So I've just jumped right in. I'm like, we're adapting a screenplay right now. Okay, and it's that simple. Okay, and I'm telling it what I want to do. I'm telling it where I'm going with this, and I'm telling it what I want it to do. I want it to ask me questions. I want you to help me make this. So I'm already into that process. It's starting to give me options on how I get to reimagine it. There's all these different environments. So again, this is where you get to start using this as, number one, a creative partner. Okay, so as much as you're comfortable or not bringing your screenplay into ChatGPT, it can be that person that says whether or not it's good enough. You can even tell it, I want you to tire kick this. I want you to tell me what's wrong with this. Like, I often finish writing a big document and I feel great about it. It's sycophanted its way into telling me everything's great. And then I'm like, all right, shift roles. Tell me what sucks about this. And then it gives me a bunch of constructive feedback. So I'm saying that becomes a choice that you introduce into your creative process. So as we do things like create scripts, so effectively this was my way to get you guys into I want to create eventually down here, I got a screenplay out of it. Okay, I went through a whole process of asking it, what can I do with this? I want to update it. I want them to be teenagers. We came up with an idea. We can spend time learning about my weird idea. But this then becomes an asset. This becomes context engineering asset number one, my screenplay. Okay, so in ChatGPT, this is the first thing I want you guys to start thinking about as you manage your projects. There's this section called projects. Okay, you guys see that? Okay, so projects is this really clever, simple way to start building your own engineered context. Okay. So when I go into any of these previous ones that I've built, for example, like here's a consult that I have, you'll see that one of the things that allows me to do is load up files. So you see here, there's 7 files. That means I've given it context for these 7 things that as I interact with this interface, this separate chat window, this isn't just some generic never-ending chat. In early days ChatGPT, you just always had to keep referencing what I said 3 paragraphs ago. This works differently, and Claude even has a few other interfaces that are different. But the point is there's this idea of weighting. And I don't mean like waiting in the waiting room, like weight, like my body weight. The way these LLMs work is that they're weighting certain things. They're putting weight on something, and that's the context focus. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating, first of all, I can create a new project, and this is what I encourage you guys to do. It even has these sort of instant features of like maybe it's an investing project or writing project. And then there's also the ability to, here, we'll do one for now. Create a new project. Let's say it's another writing project. Oh, shoot. It's another writing project, create project. Okay, it starts going through the business. I can add files. I can also add a lot of layers to how I interact with it. There used to be this, where did it go? Oh, I think this is because it already has, let me try a different one. Screenplay, let's try this. God, they keep changing the features. There used to be a settings thing. Okay, maybe they've changed this because they're moving us. Okay, there used to be a way that I could configure it a little bit better, and I'll show you why that's different. So minimally, what's interesting about this is think of your Google Drive file where all your files are in it. Imagine you can just talk about what's in these files. So when I reference things, it can reference them. They're nearby. It's that writer's room I'm describing where everything's close by as I come up with a reference. So inside my Hansel and Gretel Redux, I can add the file. I can export that document that is my script. I can also export sort of research that we're going to talk about in a second. I can start loading up this space with the things I want to talk about here because they're getting extra weight. They're not going to start talking to me about the price of Bitcoin because that's way over here. What I wanted you to talk about is a script that's closer to me. It has heavier weight. So that's this project feature that I think if you just need a place to put your files and not live in sort of the infinity of a chat, this is one way to start at least organizing yourself. But what I'm pointing to is this is more than just a file folder. This is actually a way to start refining the conversations you're having in that. So for example, what I showed you over here, this AETN consult, that newsletter that I make for you guys, like that's something that I was doing for my client at A&E. I've gotten to the point that because I've made that newsletter so many times, which is what all of these are, I literally just drop links in and it generates a newsletter because it's referencing all the previous newsletters. It knows the format. It knows that I like emojis. It knows that I like it to be a little snarky in the headlines. It knows that it can just quickly generate that and it just gets me there super fast because it's weighted with those files. So imagine where we're headed with this. You're going to bring in maybe character profiles. You're going to bring in research that explains what it was like in Napoleonic France. You're going to have all these things that help you then do your work in your writer's room and your production room. Okay, does that make sense? Like, again, I think this is just very literally what you would do at your production office. It's just now that it's living inside of a folder and it's using data as that reference. Does that make sense to everybody? So I would really encourage you to, in ChatGPT, start interacting with this project feature. The other way of thinking about this, which is what they just switched up on me, is this idea of GPTs. Okay, so ChatGPT, I'll say most people can't tell you what is GPT. Do you know, Brett? It's like something transformer. Yeah, it's like I think it's probably why they're in trouble. I think it's the branding's stupid. What is GPT? It's a generative pre-trained transformer. It's amazing that nobody can keep up with that. But the point is you can create a custom GPT. Okay, so this is an alternative to creating a project folder, and you'll see that where Claude is going, and that you're starting to create apps and software, might even be the fully advanced version of it. But these are things that are just in the app you guys probably all have access to. So a custom GPT, what is that? So in probably the version you guys have, tell me if this isn't in the version, there's this option that says Explore GPTs. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So Explore GPTs takes me to something that resembles a Mac store, right? Like this is like going to see apps on your iPhone or something. They're sort of like that. They're sort of not. Like sometimes people just publish these things and they have limited value. You can see that sometimes like companies make this, like there's like a Canva GPT. They all have different values. Basically, these are ways to optimize the LLM for a weighted purpose. Again, think about what the language we're starting to use. So alternatively, you can create your own GPT. So you see this create button. Tell me if you guys don't have this button on the version that you guys have with USC. Do you guys see this create button up on the top right? Is that a yes? Great. So here's another way that, again, we're in the project setup stage. Okay, so assume you have your screenplay. Assume you have other assets that you and your creative people have put together to get into production. So the same way I can create that project system, which I'll be honest, I think is kind of just the simpler like get her done. But I want to point this to you guys in case you like this idea. So you can create your own GPT, right? So you can start to go through a dialogue. You're saying, and again, I have the dictation tool. I need a tool to help me produce a short film. I'm just talking that simple. That's the initial purpose here. And it starts to go through its conversational interaction to start to create a tool for you that will be specific for you. Right? So now it's going to start giving me ideas of what that's going to look like. It's a minute. Within all that, there's also this idea of configuring, which is almost like you're getting into almost like a coding mindset, where what's going to happen here is it's going to have a conversation with me. And the internet here is a little bit slow.
Which internet are you on?
Actually, should I be switching? I think I'm still on EduRoam.
Oh, yeah, get off of EduRoam.
All right, I'll do that in a second.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, my internet choices are bad, apparently. What's going to happen here is I'm going to have a very constructive conversation about what do I need this tool to do? And then over here in configure, you can see it's already starting to do it. Actually, I thought it was going to take longer. In the instructions, it's now creating a conversational set of instruction of what we do in this tool. Okay, so I can go back and forth and really spend a lot of time fine-tuning that. I can also revisit it. I can, after I've built it, go back and change my mind. But the point is that this is also similarly another place where I can upload files. So it's another place where I can create that context. It's another place where I can create my little setting where I do all my work. So why is this useful? Because then instead of just being inside of ChatGPT and just having like some random conversation where I have to constantly upload the file and say, I'm talking about this thing over here, I just have a home base where my file is always uploaded. And maybe other research files that I've added are also there. And they all live together as I continue to say, like, you know what, I want to revisit this character. This character has this arc where they end up falling in love with so-and-so. I actually think that's the wrong. What impact does that have on my story? And now I have this place that my co-writer who might be asleep at 3 in the morning while I'm having this idea isn't available, but my information and all the conversations that we've been having is available. And for what it's worth, as you think about collaboration, which again, by the end of this course, I want us to think about how we're working together with others again, not just living in our internet holes. You can also have this other feature, which they've added literally in the last month, is these group chats, right? So you can actually have you can loop in your 3 collaborators into a ChatGPT conversation that has that that you were all like. I just planned like a trip to Costa Rica with my wife where we had to like say, where should we go? And like the whole thing was in one conversation. So here's that conversation, by the way. So I added my wife, and here's us figuring out what we're doing next. The thing that I want to double check is because you can I add people to these? Let's see. Share. I can share it. Yeah, so then I can create that project folder. This is a new feature. It's frustrating a few months ago they didn't have this. That project folder we were talking about before, I can invite partners into that. And then we can start working together. So I'm starting to show you, this is the way you set yourself up. This is the way you also invite others into these team settings. The GPT, for what it's worth, really functions more like a tool. Like I can share that tool with you, and you're using it, and you're making the film with all these features. I can use it by myself. We don't necessarily have a shared conversation. So that becomes a choice of which one of these fits a use case for you. Again, I kind of lean back into the projects thing. I'm pointing to the GPT thing because you're starting to see where this is starting to resemble code. This is starting to resemble almost like an app that you're building. The limitation is that GPT is still something that only one person is using at a time. We can all use it. Like I can share it as a tool that everybody can use this, but we're not in that context window where we're all talking together. So it's a bit of a feature of how to navigate ChatGPT. Yep.
I'm not fully understanding the benefit of the GPT versus like a project or like, you know, going back to.
I think you're right, by the way. I'm saying before projects came along, people were using the GPTs. I'm just kind of showing it to you because it might be somebody's taste. I think the difference of the GPT is that you can kind of optimize it with code. Like the way that I would use a GPT is I might be able to link it to other agents. I might, like if I'm like running like a travel agency, I might link it up to my consumer database. It starts to become a more sophisticated tool. And so, do you see what I mean? Like it's sort of from a filmmaking point of view, it might make more sense. I think you're probably right. That I think I just need to like share files and talk to people. But the reason the GPT exists is because you can do more sophisticated stuff. So I'm showing it to you in case you're kind of like a coding mindset person, that you're like, oh, this starts to link up to my timeline for editing. Like you might figure out like this starts to do like the real like next level stuff. So I just want you guys to be aware of it because this is in your subscription. You have it. It's available to you. Somebody else raise their hand.
I'm not really following the group chat feature. Is it through the share?
It's just another thing they've added in the last couple months. So you can see these are group chats here. And what I can do is I can like add you to a conversation. And then every time I have a chat with like a conversation with ChatGPT, you're in the same chat. It's actually kind of weird because we're not just talking to each other in a WhatsApp. There's like this LLM thing that just keeps getting in the way. Like again, we're kind of seeing them try stuff. But the thing that is interesting is like sometimes you're like, oh, I wish I could just include Samuel into that conversation I was having so you can see all the data. Like it's one way. So this might be a feature. You might have a project folder over here, but you might also have a group chat with your editor where you guys are interacting with the same information. Do you see what I mean?
Create a group chat.
Oh, you just, is it not available in your guys' stuff? Let's see, I think
you need a high level plan for that.
really? Do you guys not have the group chat option? Okay, this might be the pro plan. Okay. Sometimes they have these beta things that aren't available to everybody.
I can also answer
I
your
think the
custom
web
GPT question.
version has different. It has like group chat and also the ability to create GPTs in a way that
Are you guys using an app?
I
I'll
have the
chat-
desktop app and it does not. have
Yeah, I
that.
use the web version. I also, the mobile version is super important. Like, I think almost everything is almost optimized for mobile.
Does it make like the group chat feature the people getting involved, that people that you want to invite also needs to be a pro user or?
It's a good question. I'm not sure because again, we're all kind of on different, people are paying for different plans. I've experienced that it is available to everybody because it seems like a really kind of like inclusive feature that probably gets them more customers. It sounds like on the web app it is available, so maybe check out if just the website gets you there. But again, I'm throwing these things at you of like, how do you start building a new film set? Okay, so I might have my project folder to start managing my files and my references. I might in the same app have my team group chat over here that isn't just over here on WhatsApp. And it's funny, WhatsApp, because they're inside of Meta, they've added some functionality that you can ask Meta stuff. It's just not very good. Here you have like one of the greatest LLMs in the world at listening in on your conversation. And you're just like, oh shit, wait, we're writing this scene that's set in like 19th century America. Did they have like, when did cars get invented? And you can just like literally in conversation add that to what we're all saying or whatever you want to add to it.
I found the group chat feature. by the way.
Okay.
So if you go to the main ChatGPT window on the web, not on the desktop app, it's a little button in the top right corner that has a plus on it. And if you click on that, you can start a group chat. You don't need a pro plan.
Actually, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Actually, you see it right up here? It probably is. Maybe I just steered you wrong. Thank you, Brooks.
Mhm.
You see that button up on the top right? So that's how you'd start a group chat on ChatGPT. Okay. So again, think about your team building. Think about how you're starting to organize your creative process. That's where we're starting to go with this stuff. I'll just give you a quick taste of Gemini. I mean, we're right about an hour. I think we're going to get through all this stuff. Gemini is interesting. Gemini 3 is their competitor to current ChatGPT 5. If you really get into the business news of this stuff, you will start to see that like the adoption is very competitive. Like they clearly have a really aggressive position with like the business world. A lot of people use Google. USC uses Google. Gemini, look, it looks similar. The thing that Gemini has that is really relevant to this class is that Gemini is the same company that brought us Nano Banana Pro. So, and look, ChatGPT has ChatGPT image 1.5, which is really, really strong, and arguably was the first image model that started to do what Nano Banana Pro is doing very well. So I'm not going to hate it. I would say most people I don't use it much. It's available. You can create images inside of ChatGPT that are probably useful, but Nano Banana Pro is becoming like professional industry standard. You're watching entire tools like FreePick completely build their moats around the capabilities of this tool, which is only going to get updated and advanced more aggressively. I'm sure ChatGPT will blow our minds with something else, but I'm just saying the upside of Gemini is that while in this course and this week, and again, this could change in 3 weeks, but because Nano Banana Pro literally like landed like in December of last year and it totally changed everything. Here in tools is the banana. Okay? It's one of the clued in tools. You also have VO3 inside of Gemini. And I'm only just going to show this for a second, but for example, hang on, Desert, let me see. All right, so it was actually technically November that Nano Banana Pro dropped, and I remember because I was in Korea with our mutual friend Eric Weaver, Habib, and I remember I was like busy working with Eric, and just like everything's lit up, everybody's losing their minds over Nano Banana Pro, right? So I just woke up in Korea the day before I flew back. I'm like, all right, I finally have headspace to work on this. So I said, I'm gonna give this a try. So this is literally like my day one with Nano Banana Pro, just to show you why I think this is another mindset for this context engineering idea. So you can see what I said. I just woke up with this dumb idea for a movie of like a couple gets married in Death Valley, and they at their reception they get a present that's like a time machine, and then when everybody goes to sleep they go on the sand dunes, they open up the time machine and they transport to Japan, and you know, Shogun era or something. Who cares if that's a good idea, by the way? I'm just saying that was the idea. And I just, and by the way, I really encourage you guys to get used to talking. You get like learn about this microphone button, and if you really like talking, Whisper Flow I think is the best $12 a month that I spend. But I literally just got off my thumbs and misspellings, and I just talked to my phone with an idea that I just had in my head. That's all this is. This is transcribed me talking to my phone. And then obviously it's sycophantic, everything's fantastic, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it immediately starts going into making a script. Okay, we're used to that. The chat GPTs do this too, all as well. But I was already aware of what Nano Banana Pro was doing. I'm like, okay, because I'd seen people talking about it. So I get past the script and I'm like, all right, this is great, but I want to start creating my characters. I want to start thinking about what they look like. And then I just start talking like she's this Eastern European, he's from South America, blah, blah, blah. We created a name for her, name's Alara. So I'm just scrolling through this, but I'm showing you this is all just a chat conversation. So it immediately, and I said, I want to create separate assets. We're going to learn about this next week. I want her face. I want the tiara she's wearing. I want the shoes she's wearing. I want the dress. Those need to be consistent. For my sake, I want my costume department to have a file folder with those things separate. Don't just create a composite image with everybody all at once. So we did that. We got her, we got her dress, we got her tiara, we got her shoes. Okay. Then I created him, same thing. We gave him a whole outfit. So now I'm filling my folder. This is now off of Gemini or in context of this conversation. Now we're location scouting. Okay. And I'm like, all right, I want Zabriskie Point at this time of day. I want the sunset, you know, reception over here. I need and I even said, I want that to look a little bit like the Antonioni movie that was set at Zabriskie Point. I want this to have a little bit more of a Spielberg vibe. Like I was even giving it direction, like I might talk to my cinematographer of like, what's the aesthetics I'm going for? And then it quickly found 4 great locations for me. Okay, now we're building context. I said, all right, let's create this time machine thing. Okay, so it created my little time machine. I gave it some descriptions. Everything I'm just talking. I'm just talking on my phone. I'm not typing anything. Let's create the time machine moment. I'm like, all right, that looks good, but I want it to be more glitch in the matrix. So make it look more like that. Great. So I'm having a full-fledged conversation with the best image model in the world as it's talking to me about what I'm thinking about. Okay. And now I'm saying, okay, I'm into that. And now I said, and this is what we're going to do more of next week, make me a character sheet. Make me a consistent little playing card of who Alara and Mateo are. So it gave me this, which we'll see is pretty much all you need. And we can get more sophisticated, but I need something that every time I tell the app, put Alara in this scene, I got that picture. Okay, it's got her outfit, it's got her face, it's got a nice close-up of her. And I said, all right, can you just go ahead and like walk me through the movie I'm making here? Okay, so what's the biggest mistake that I already made? She's not Eastern European or blonde. She went away. Okay, because I didn't give it that specific note. I said, can you put those people back in the movie? Okay, now we're back. Okay, it's that conversational and that simple. And the other thing you'll notice, this is a single JPEG with 9 JPEGs inside of it. And we'll spend more time on this once we get into world building. But this was that, remember I told you that I can get like 9 camera angles of the same thing, or I can get 9 moments from a sequence. This is that feature in action. That it's just quickly showing me, like, check this out, here's your movie. Here's the whole flow. And then I can extract each one of these stills and bring them back up to upscale and start animating those and keyframing those. Okay, this is literally a 5-minute conversation. Okay, ChatGPT's image tool is super slow and annoying. It doesn't move this fast. And I can start giving it notes that I didn't like that sunset. I want a better sunset. I'm just showing this to you is that like this is the other LLM option that you will have for free or it's worth 20 bucks of your money now. Or I'm pretty sure there's like a student version that they've already handed out for free. I remember at the top of last semester, all students in America had free Google AI Pro, which would be redundant on the ones they're about to give you. But I'm just showing it to you because I think this is why, while VO3 and VNO Pro are basically like leading state-of-the-art tools, it's in a chat, right? Even ChatGPT is a tool to then take you to the other tools. So I'm just pointing it out to you in case that's interesting to you. Okay. And then Claude, I won't spend time on. We're going to come back to Claude later in the semester because its superpower that just launched this week is how much of a coding superpower it is. It's become a lot more user-friendly to the average consumer. And Claude, its magic trick alongside this stuff is you'll see the videos. Like somebody will show you their desktop with all the shitty icons everywhere. And it's like messy because all of us have messy desktops. And because it's an agent that has now been given permission to work with your computer, which you can choose, you can just be like, clean up my desktop. It'll just clean up your desktop. It'll just reorganize everything. And because it's got access to it's like literally Jarvis and it's crazy and might be scary. Anyway, those are the LLMs. And I just want you to see like two different ends of the spectrum here. I think ChatGPT still has huge value and it's highly effective as a production management tool. And we'll see as we come back to this tool, like as we lock in our script, okay, give me a shot list. We're gonna do that before we leave today. How does it take your same script and quickly give you, okay, well, this is what your DP needs to see. This is what your production designer needs to see. And then you can go back and forth. I mean, it's not stuck. Like you can say, I don't like that. And I want more wide shots. I want more steady cams or whatever. It starts to become that production management tool that can interact with your source content and starts organizing your process moving forward. So it's a creative assistant, it's a production assistant. And both of these can do that. I do think the Google version of that kind of project feature, it doesn't really exist. And their GPT thing is called Gems, and it's really over the top and confusing. Like you can sort of see it. I tried to make one for you guys. This was like I tried to make one. I think it's way too much. I don't need it to do all this stuff. Like this is their version of creating a GPT. It looks nice. I mean, I get it. Like it's kind of neat, but it's like, it goes too far. And this is where I'm saying, like, you don't have to accept something just because it can do it. So like here I can say, you know, I'm making a film about an alien and a robot that meet at a diner and want to take down humanity. So it'll just start going. And this is what, when we start getting into coding agents and stuff, like this is what we're interacting with, is that it just starts doing and starts, I just think it organizes too much. I think about you guys, I think you guys need to sort of see the steps, at least at this learning phase. But you'll see it's creating film concept, it's orchestrating, it's gonna, we'll come back to this. I don't want to waste time on this, but it's just gonna suddenly storyboard the whole thing and do too many things that I kind of wanted to spend time with, but we'll come back to this. But if you're interested, they're called Gems on Gemini. That's their equivalent of the GPTs, that where you're creating like a customized tool, right? All right, questions there, because I want to shift to research. Yep.
I'm thinking about like, you know, like the Apple ecosystem and like people who use Apple products love Apple because all their stuff is on Apple, and like, you know, my iPhone goes directly to the Mac and my iPad, it's all one thing. What are your thoughts on like the fact that, you know, everyone seems to be using ChatGPT, I think, in this room. You're saying that and it seems like Gemini has its benefits in terms of like this filmmaking workflow. Is there ever going to be a time where, like, with all these LLMs, things are kind of like?
I think think about the history of TV. Like we used to watch 4 TV channels, right? Americans did, at least. We became sophisticated consumers of TV. We started watching 300, and you developed your love for Animal Planet if you lived in that generation. And now you've become this person that interacts with YouTube and a little bit of TikTok. I think we're in a phase that the user is evolving. And that's why I was saying before, like the current power user or even medium power user has subscriptions to all 3, because they want to code over here. They might really like Google because it sits inside their Gmail, because now Gemini's in your Gmail. Gemini's in your Google Drive. All those personalization things. They're like, oh wait, where was that file I sent to somebody 3 years ago? ChatGPT won't do that for you unless you connect it. You could do it, but why wouldn't I just do that with the Google tool? Because you see how like they're all starting to have their own like ecosystem advantages. I think it might turn into having like a cable package. Like you might have like, I have HBO, Showtime, and Paramount Plus. Like I have all 3 of them. I think it's going to turn into like a user consumer choice where these things fit. Like these are all web apps and mobile apps. They're on my iPhone. Like Apple's chilling. Like they're still getting that 30% feature every time I pay for these. You know, if I pay for anything, their store is still making money. So I think Apple did just do a big deal with Google, for what it's worth. Like Siri is now, for the foreseeable future, informed by Gemini. So that's the financial news thing that I'm glad you're asking this question, because you can't ignore that this is a consumer experience that's happening. And now that it's also prosumer users that are making stuff with this, and we're in this very porous creator economy where creators and consumers are kind of sitting right next to each other. So it is interesting to speculate. It is absolutely the thing that there's a whole world of people writing articles about, like, oh, OpenAI is gonna become the Netscape, and like everybody's playing the horse race game on this stuff. But the most interesting thing to ask is, what's the point? How does this serve me as a user? And that's what I'm saying. I almost start to ask, well, what happens when TV got too many options? And we saw that with peak TV. Like, we got too much television, and now we're in an age of consolidation, right? The streamers are consolidating. So it's very likely that free pick, I don't know if free pick survives. I just think it's a good tool right now. We were just talking with Habib, like, we're in the stage where Netflix costs $5 right now, is that they're just giving away all this stuff that makes no sense financially, but they're all hustling so hard to become viable as businesses that we benefit. We get to use this stuff and learn how to use it. So I don't know if that's totally answering your question, but I'm saying I think in the end, the variable is the consumer and the user.
Is there any like aggregator for LLM? Like, is there any app that puts all these things into one place?
You can create your own workflow. So now you're asking the right questions. And again, workflow building, that's the next chapter after context engineering and all this, is that you will become somebody that might enjoy Comfy UI. You will be somebody that might prefer FAL.ai or these places where you're going to create your own workflow. And you don't need to go to Gemini's app. You're going to have the Gemini API informing your storyboarding process that you've picked your image model. That's the right question to ask, is that while these are API businesses, which, by the way, Midjourney is not currently. So again, think about the sort of the financial news of this all. There's a big giant tool that we're going to learn about in a week or so called Midjourney that is walled off because they've created a moat with their customer base because they were a first mover, and I would argue have other things that they do well too. Most of their competitors have APIs because they're trying to appeal to the agency that doesn't want to spend all their time on a cloud and dealing with websites. They're going to create local models that they've bought the GPUs and they have the hardware and they've built the entire model inside of a computer so they can generate to their heart's content without sensors, without things that limit them. So it's going to be the APIs that will probably answer your question, is that which ones then become viable businesses for that type of use case. The question is are we in a world where the people that are uploading the YouTube Shorts and Instagram, do they like just web apps that are automated and there's no choices to make? And I think they probably do. Like for the Etsy store owner that wants to do a little branded content film about like their mom and pop business, like they get to make like a Nike commercial. They don't want to deal with like the choices that a filmmaker need to make. They just want something that's easy. So there's going to be a really interesting consumer marketplace emerging. So let's talk research for a second. So again, we could spend an entire semester talking about LLMs because they really are that powerful, and what they do almost informs everything that's happening. The reason Nano Banana Pro is so powerful is because it's inside of Gemini. So I don't want to overlook any obvious questions there, but I want you to at least see that project feature, be aware of the GPT feature, and like we can take a look to see if the gem is done going nuts. See where'd it go. Anyway, we'll come back to it. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Sorry. Use feedback or submit. Anyway, I actually don't like this feature. If you guys want to learn about gems, we can spend time on it. So research. The most boring sounding thing we could possibly talk about in a filmmaking class. I think it's the coolest. So obviously we've probably gotten used to the idea of the ChatGPT. You can consult the internet, and it's gotten much better. I think a year and a half ago, I would say use caution because it's hallucinating. It's gotten much better, and you might be perfectly happy with ChatGPT. You're doing fine. Gemini, similarly, you can do queries the way that you've gotten used to Googling things in your lifetimes. And even you've probably gotten used to the fact that Googling on the internet looks different. There's that AI summary that shows up right away, right? So the basic utility of researching is just everything's AI, and you should still like fact check things. I don't know, before you say them in front of people. You can just still decide if your paper that you're publishing for your college has gone through your acceptable layers of what you would call ready to print. But that is reasonably effective. I don't know, like there isn't a lot to unpack there. I would say that for whatever reason, I fell in love with Perplexity first. I make no money spending time in a class talking to you guys about this. Its free features are great. I personally like the idea of a company that it's the only thing they do. I mean, there's other things they do, but their core identity is research. So I would just point to it. I think it's interesting. There are Teams versions of this. There's like a Spaces feature where you can invite people and we all kind of research together. It's my app when I'm just like asking questions, and it's like anything else. Like, you know, I'm planning a trip to Costa Rica. I've got a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. What should we do? You know, it's the same thing you would do in ChatGPT, but it's a little bit more of a research-driven conversation. It's a conversational exchange. This is free. Again, we're not in the money spending part of the class yet. This is the choose your own adventure part of the class. But it's like all of these, you're getting sources cooked into your replies. You don't just have to trust the conversation. You can go backwards. It continues. You can upload files. You can send it a picture of a menu in a restaurant and say, like, what are the ingredients in this thing? Same thing in ChatGPT. I just find the Perplexity experience a little bit deeper. But I'm just pointing this out as like, this is the query side of research. This is just regular interactions. What is a lot more interesting is deep research. Who here has, I showed it a little bit last week, but who here has spent any time with deep research? A little bit. So if you go into your ChatGPT window, it's over here. It's available to all of you in your ChatGPT. There's deep research, right? If anybody likes Gemini, it's over here in the exact same place. Under tools, there's deep research. When I see like Silicon Valley, like fancy people, and somebody on stage asks them, like, what's your favorite tool that you use in AI? Most of them point to deep research. Because for anybody that is an informed decision maker, the ability to have not just the Googleable ability of the internet at your fingertips, but to have like the PhD level synopsis and digest of that information at your fingertips is bananas. Amazing. You'll hear Ezra Klein on a podcast talk about how his like incredibly powerful room full of researchers and writers, he's given deep research a challenge that he's like, I would expect them to do that in weeks. It did that in 30 minutes. So react to that however you want, but then think about your screenplay. Like, let's say you're doing a movie that actually has some type of historical reference. Let's say you're talking about something that might benefit from understanding Italian culture, like Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola did. So I'm going to start a new chat. I want to do a film about the mob in the early 20th century, and some of the main characters run a restaurant. Is there any precedent for mobsters who also had front businesses that were restaurants? Is there any long history to understanding the relationship between Italian cuisine and Italian gangsters? I just asked, I don't even know what that question, I don't even know what I'm asking about. I'm just starting somewhere, but I'm doing that level of initial query. I could have a very sophisticated query. I could have spent a lot of time bumping up against something with my actors that we don't actually understand. Like, did people actually drive cars like this or whatever it is that you're having? You could have a more sophisticated query. But I'm going to then, and I can choose fast or I can choose pro, and that might be depending on which account you guys have. We're going to have the ultra plan on Gemini, and you guys have whatever plan the USC has given you on ChatGPT. Just for today, I'll say fast. And then this is what that process looks like. This isn't a quick answer on the AI summary. This isn't like I just scoured the internet and I give you a quick answer. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to give me a plan. Okay, so it's creating a research plan for this topic. Okay. So now it's saying, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. Again, it's reasoning. This is for a lot of people their first real interaction with an agent. Okay, because it's not just giving you a prompt and response. It's starting to do stuff for you. It's saying like, well, are you sure you want to do this? Do you really want to do that? And in this case, it's checking in with me, right? So it's laying out a plan. I can spend some time here editing that plan. I can say, no, actually, I changed my mind. I really care about the 19th century. Or actually, I just want to know about, were there any female gangsters? I don't know, whatever it is I just changed my mind to, this is the time to do that, okay? And then I'm going to start the research. And again, you'll notice this isn't quick. This isn't just like that magic trick that the internet just does something in seconds. It's about to spend a long time doing this research, okay? And it's not just going to be a chat conversation in return. It's going to give me a document. So I showed this to you guys last week, but just to kind of bring this back into focus on what we're talking about, like the first time I ever did one of these, I did something on near-death experiences. This is an example of what I'm going to get on the other side of this about mobsters and restaurants. It's a very thoughtfully laid out document that, you know, high quality graduate students in universities might create something that looks like this. It's an organized set of thoughts. It's put it into some structure that allows me to more than get an answer. I'm going to spend some time with this document. Or I'm going to take this document and put it into my projects folder in ChatGPT, or it's going to sit inside the context of a conversation I'm having with Gemini. This starts to build my context. Okay, so imagine I have a film that's rich in history or rich in complicated things that are, speculative history, and I don't need the record of history. I need this sort of speculative, undertold side of history. I might go and do that research, and now I have a weighted conversation that's helping me come up with ideas for my script, for my characters inside that context. Okay, so you see how we're engineering context. You're not just forcing it to have answers for you. It's helping you come up with better answers on your own. And it can help do those answers for you too. But I would then bring this document into my projects folder, into my chat conversation. Okay, so we'll see how long that takes. And again, I chose to do this in Gemini. You can do the exact same thing in ChatGPT. It's its own sort of obsessive conversation about which one's better. I tend to think Google's a little bit better, but they're all fucking amazing. Like, we're living in a time of amazing abundance. Like, don't obsess, just find something that works for you. Or is free if you have it from the school. Anyway, in the meantime, we're going to find out about bomb restaurants, but I want to then give you one extra destination for this process. So I think I mentioned to you at the beginning, there's this tool called Notebook LM, which of all the tools that we're talking about was not designed for filmmaking. This is literally a study guide tool. This is literally designed for college students to organize their classes. So I'm actually a little, maybe there's a reason USC hasn't introduced this to you guys. So I hope I'm not going against university canon here. But you'll see that these are other notebooks that I've created for myself. You've probably come across this before, where you've seen those like fake podcasts that people share on social media, where like this like random guy and random woman are like, hey, we're talking about this, like it's a podcast, but we know that they're not real and it was a joke. Did anybody see those, or is that come and gone? Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because, so imagine, so this is like a class I took at ASU, it was something about diversity and ethics. This was like homework for that class. So these are all the different documents we were asked to read, okay? So I uploaded them as files. Sometimes when we upload sources, we can upload websites, primarily YouTube links, okay? So now I'm creating a very different type of context here. The reason Notebook LM is special, the reason why you might like it more, is because unlike even that project folder system that I showed you, that thing's still interacting with the internet with that weighted process, right? It still has a neural network that it's doing magic LLM stuff. This is only interacting with my files, okay? So I have all these files here that I've uploaded. I can upload websites that it transcribes those websites. It then knows them because they're YouTube links, and it's able to do that. And I'm going to send this to you guys. I created one for this class. Okay, so this is our cinematic AI references and resources. I grabbed all the PDFs from last semester when I taught this. Every time I have a new PDF or a new website that I think is interesting to you guys, I'm going to drop it in here. Okay, and then now this is all searchable. And this isn't searchable like in a Google way. This is searchable in a chat way. So I need to figure out how to use Kling Motion. Do I work with actors or do I work with avatars? I don't understand. That might be the type of question one of you has next week. Okay, this then interacts with my sources. It's not interacting with the internet. It's not interacting with its imagination that's hallucinating. It's just interacting with my sources. Okay, so now it's going to go through my sources, and it's going to give me a response that also has references that I can click on to go to the source document. So if you're someone, again, who has a project that has a lot of like rooted information, like my character is really inspired by the real Amelia Earhart or whatever it is that you're writing, you can have that process be really tightened up here. You don't have to just go through your folders and like pull up that thing and, tape it to your wall. So now it's giving me an answer on how do I do a Kling Motion. And then if I want to go back, wait, where did that come from? I click here and then it takes me back to the original document. Okay, so this is a really super powered way to manage your research process. So bring this into your process. Maybe I have historical research, right? And by the way, what's neat about the Google, because this is a Google product too. Do you see this feature up here on the top left? I can add deep research to what I've already created. So let's say these are all the files that I've given you, or that you've created for yourself. But you're like, man, I really need to go deep on like how homes were built in the 18th century because I'm like doing some like Little House on the Prairie or something. You can then create your own deep research file through this tool that then you can choose to add it to your context, right? So this becomes a real superpowered way for you to have your own information all in one place. And again, this is a little bit more research heavy. for shits and giggles, there's also this audio overview feature. So this is, let's say you have your writers room meeting, and you guys, somebody just sent you like a 100-page document that like, all right, I need us to talk about this. And you're like, I wish you had sent this to me a week ago. I don't have a week to read this. So the audio overview, God, I really should have set up the internet right. Which one should I be on?
Probably if you don't have the account yet, USC guest is pretty good.
Which one am I? USC guy. It's not even showing up.
Wait, go to click there, click other.
Other network.
Yeah.
USC guest.
guest wireless.
All right. Someday I'll get a USC ID and it'll be like super awesome in here. For what this might take too long for the time we have. What it can do is then create a podcast summary of that document or all of my information. So like, oh, I don't have time to read a 100-page document. I will listen to a 20-minute conversation between a fake human and another fake human talking about that. I can also, if I can get the internet to work here, I can also get a video overview, which means it'll make an explainer video with Nano Banana Pro and with VO3, and it'll create like a PowerPoint video explainer of my information. So this, again, as a study guide, maybe this is worth your other classes to take a look at, but this becomes a way to really interact with your information. We're not going to spend too much more time here. I just wanted to connect that dot because you actually might think it might be funny to use that audio in your movies. Like maybe you're creating like a fake news reporter in your stories and you don't have to go past it. Maybe it's right here. So one last point in this idea of context. One thing that I think is interesting, you saw that when I was showing you that Gemini thing is I created those character sheets of what my characters looked like. But I might be like really leaning into what are my characters like? You know, what are they all about? Right? So one other, and this is now we're into sort of experimentation. God, now everything's just shutting down. I think it's because this one's open. Let me close this. I hope I didn't just overdo it. This is why I'm getting a new computer. Because I can't keep up with all the things. I might have to close everything out. I'll try to describe it while we're here. So there's this idea of creating like a character operating system, right? So think about what you might do with your writer. You might sort of reach a real understanding of like who Don Corleone is. And you might really know that he's the type of man that does this, but he would never do that. You know, and then this becomes like a real great like rule of thumb in your writer's room to really sort of like explore character, explore scenes. Let me see if this is going to work now. Oh no! All right, I'm gonna have to describe this. I have to start over. So one idea is that you can work with that script process. I was gonna pull it up, but my computer's dying. In the time that I ramble on, when I come back, it'll be fine. Cancel, go away. You can work with the script that you created or that you uploaded to have that dialogue with your script, with your process to say, okay, who is Hansel? Who is Gretel? What are they all about in this teenage version of them in the 20th century? What's their backstory? What went through them? And in a way that maybe that 5-minute adaptation of the old Brothers Grimm story didn't really go there. I want to spend some time there. I didn't really get to explore it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create like a template that is a product of that conversation that I have with the chatbot about my characters. And then that becomes a file in my folder. That becomes a file in my context window. That becomes a tool for me to constantly revisit my script. So again, this is pre-production. This becomes another way for you to set up like a table read, is that you can start to create these different assets that speak to your character. But what I was going to try to show you, let me see if just closing these windows helps. Right, this is why this computer is getting replaced. This might work now. Oh, now there's just no internet, even better. Well, now we're really winning. Fuck. Try one more thing. Other? I don't know what's going on there. What should I do? All right, let's go internet. Other?
Yeah. No, you're not going to be able to do that.
All right, I'm just going to turn it off and come back on. Do you understand the basic principle? I wanted to show you in a quick walkthrough way, but my computer is dying. Does everybody understand the principle of that, what I just described? And maybe we don't have to spend time on it. Like, can you wrap your head around that idea? because we're going to come back to it later in the semester when we create a virtual writers room. I think we were talking about that last week. So I want that to be a more advanced version of what we're doing today. Let me just try restarting. This is an example of a messy desktop that Claude Cowork would just fix just by just hitting a button. But does that principle connect with you guys? And what do you guys think of that? Is that a useful way to start thinking about your writing process? What do you think of the back? Because you were interested in virtual writings room.
Feel it can be a sounding board, but as I'm talking to friends who are actually working in the room, they have the initiative to come up with new ideas. And right now, I don't think any of the AI cosplaying characters are initiating it. I think that's the difference for now.
Yeah.
But it still serves as a very good sounding board.
Yeah, and I think that's all I'm positioning it as, is this, because I don't want it to write the script for you, but I want it to create another environment for you to get ideas. So if you've really done a good job of creating that context in that character operating system document, and you can spend a whole day talking to it and then asking it to synthesize that into a document. And it could be 60 pages long. It's just throw that into your context window, let it worry about reading it. Like, you don't have to read it again. But it can be that synthesis of like, I've obsessed over the psychology of my character. And yeah, it's a sounding board. I mean, I think what I want to experiment with, and I want to see where Claude Cowork ends by the time we get to here, is like, can we create like a dynamic table read environment? Like, what if we did that and loaded up multiple characters and then actually automated, like, okay, can these guys talk about meeting each other on a first date? And just see what happens. Like role play it in a way that I've loaded up 2 different character identities, be a character kind of like setting, just see what happens. And even if it's garbage, it might spark ideas for you of what it should do. I'm just saying, like, you normally are just stuck in like your own headspace on this stuff. What if you're creating these environments where you're getting to experiment with characters? And that's all I'm suggesting to do with it. I don't think it needs to replace anything. The same reason that having a table read is really valuable for you as a filmmaker, to see like, oh, that's what happened when that character said that to that. Well, I don't have to wait to gather all those actors just to have that moment. I can have a simulated moment, right? All right, let me see if I can just, now we are connected to the internet. That's a good sign. Mm-hmm. The last kind of core prep tool that I want to introduce, does anybody here use Figma? Do you guys use Figma? Have you ever heard of Figma? Is that a word that is familiar to anybody? Who's heard of Figma? What do you use it for, Idea?
I don't use it.
Okay.
I just heard the word Figma.
So Figma is interesting. It is a very popular collaboration tool. It's basically, it does a lot of things. I think people are building like front ends for websites. I mean, there's a lot of things that even are beyond me. It has become a very standardized tool for what we're talking about in terms of taking your script, turning it into a shot list, and then becoming minimally a collaborative tool, like for you to share with other people, like, all right, we're generating these shots, we're making these movies. You can also just use it by yourself. Let me get back to our Canva. So new internet, new laptop. Next week should be great. It will be much better than this. All right, here we are. Okay. All right, so one of the people that I think I mentioned last week, for folks that weren't here, there's an AI bro or AI filmmaker, depending on how you want to take in his vibe. I think he's very successful. And if nothing else, it's always interesting to see people that are building businesses and standards in this space. His name's PJ Asatura. He, for better or for worse, kind of like really makes a lot of noise on Twitter and X, doing kind of things that piss a lot of people off. So he like did like Princess Mononoke as a trailer, but with like AI, and then everybody got mad at him for doing that. He just did it again 2 weeks ago with The Legend of Zelda. Like, you know how they're making a movie of it. So he just said, I'm not waiting for the movie. I'm just going to make my own version of this. And he made like a trailer. And like, it's interesting of how he pulled it off, but then everybody got mad at him, and it's just like rage bait. Like, so I don't know, read into that whatever you want. His efforts have put him in a position that he's now making a lot of money doing AI commercials. He's built an agency that they did that Kalshi ad that I think we talked. Did we watch that last week? The crazy Kalshi ad? All right, I won't expose you to it again. It's like unhinged. That's crazy. But anyway, what I find interesting in him is he is in the category of people that are still extremely generous with how they share their process, which I think anybody that's working under a time constraint with a budget is interesting to me. I mean, people that are just working in like Artland and everything's just like possible, like great, like come back and let me know how it went. But when people have to do things in constraints, we're learning about, okay, how do we sort of automate our solutions, and what does that teach us about what the production workplace might look like as we deal with budgets and schedules too. So it's interesting to me. But beyond that, it's also that he, I think, just created a great resource. I see everybody in my space using these two. So this is a Figma board, and you can sort of start to see what I think you guys are going to be able to do over the weekend, and then eventually start thinking this way as you plan your films, which is that over here is the shot list. In this case, there happened to be a broken out idea of voiceover. This was a voiceover driven story. There's the idea of the reference images, which is these aren't yet film images. These are just like inspirations from the internet, or maybe quick generations just to say I'm going for a close up or whatever that's meant to be. And then this becomes like it's blank at first. And then as you're going through your process, this is your to-do list. You're starting to fill that out shot by shot. Okay, so this is one way to start building a production process around this stuff. Here's another similar one with a slightly different structure. Same basic idea is that what we're going to do is we're going to take our shot list out of ChatGPT. We're going to drop it into Figma. Here's another one that's even more sophisticated. And this is actually further along because this is now post Nano Banana Pro. That first one was pre Nano Banana Pro. You can see that he's now also doing what I showed you I did in that Gemini, like free flow, right? He brought in the characters. Here's his character shots. Here's like, she looks like this, he looks like that. So those become references next to his shot list. And then this becomes the way you start to organize it. And then this becomes things that fill out as you go along, right? So you get your references, so then everybody's on the same page creatively and aesthetically, style-wise. And then as you're working with people that might be in India, they might be down the street from you, they might be sitting next to you. This is the big challenge right now. And like when I talk to people that are like running studios, that the hardest thing right now is it's not hard to get people in a room. It's hard to get everybody on the same page aesthetically and style-wise. And this becomes a way to start transparently building a workflow around that. Yep.
There's a great film on Netflix called Humans in the Loop. A friend of mine was it's about people that are training AI in a village in India. Really interesting topics.
What are they training at? Like, what does it mean?
Well, I don't want to give away the story, but you know, the employees are supposed to look at images and tell the AI like this is a pest and this is not a pest, or you know, how to identify things. They have to tag it.
Oh, right. So it's like the early days of data scraping.
And
Yeah. Right.
controversies come out because some of the things aren't correct.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some interesting docs that are dropping at Sundance like this weekend. I know one of the filmmakers, and I think she went deep on this subject area of like, well, if we allow ourselves to step back, like, what does this really mean? That, you know, who are the people making these choices? Who are the people that are being sort of used as sort of like data? I still want to think that you guys as directors that are creating new worlds and new spaces, you're ultimately in control of what the output is. What's coming in may be just the person that walked by in the middle of your shot as you're shooting on the street. You can edit out anything that is. I think you still have a lot of control to get past that worry, which I think is very real. It's a very interesting topic, though. I mean, it's an interesting doc. This is another example of a Figma board that just to show you in action. This is like one that me and a collaborator like last fall we made this little like music video. I hope it's still up unless he deleted it. Let's see. Yeah. So like this shows you another way to think. And that's why Figma and Miro and these like infinite canvas tools are kind of whatever you want them to be. Like that was a very linear thing that PJ Ace created, which I kind of encourage you to stick to, but I just want to show you that your creative process still has a lot of room to run. So this was a music video. We had like an inspiration section. We needed to talk to a lot of different people. There was a way that he found the success getting visual consistency. We also had this idea of like this like pianist that it was a music video of her work. So she sent us these driving videos of her playing the piano. So we needed a place to put those videos. And then that became our source to then put into our animation tool that then turned her into an alien. These are different things that we use to keep track of creative choices. Then over here is where we drop the shots. So I'm not even saying you should pay a lot of attention to this. I'm just showing you this is a bit more freestyle. This is a way that you can start to create your own. And when I look at like the Miro boards that I'm creating for like XR experiences, they're not linear. Like you're creating something that needs to sort of like zoom in and out. And as you can see, this is something that zooms in and out, right? You go, it isn't like limited to that view. So this is like your own world of ideation. So I encourage you guys, I'm pretty sure the free account is plenty. I think where it gets limited is like setting up teams and stuff, and we could talk about how you guys choose to use it. You could just use PDFs or whatever, like you can make this in Canva. But I'm showing you that this is the way we start to organize this stuff, right? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so yeah, so this is kind of just to like visually structure the process that you're gonna do for storyboarding and then going to the Banana Pro and then bringing it back to Figma.
That's right. You can see that in this page that's what's going on here. Is that this is where we start, and I'm going to get us started right now with my Hansel and Gretel story. But we drop in our information, and that becomes our to-do list. And then as we're going through the process, this is where we're locking off and approving, right? And then that becomes stuff that goes into an editor. And look, we're probably 2 ticks away from Adobe dropping a better tool that puts this all in one setting, and then I go straight into Premiere. And I don't even need it. I don't need it. Like we've been like tool hopping for a while. This is just still like a very easy way to think about the process. And that's where I think you guys should come up with something more interesting. That's why I show you this, so that maybe the linear approach is limiting. Maybe as you guys start to access the utilities here, you organize your thoughts differently. And I'm more interested in how you guys organize your thoughts. But I'm showing you the types of utilities to let you do that. And this one should be free. So let's give this a try. So I have this script. This was what I was going to show you before. And I can send this to you as a template. This is like a template for a character operating system, right? We'll drop this in this week's homework. So it's just a way to organize that thought for you. So for homework, I want you to come up with an idea. Do not obsess over it unless you really want to. It's your sleep that you're messing with. I just want you to go through the journey of taking an idea and breaking it down into smaller pieces. You know, nobody cares about your pitch next week. Like it really does. I mean, they might care about your pitch in 6 weeks, but right now this doesn't matter. If you want it to be the same pitch, that's your choice. But to get through homework, I want you to go through the journey of coming up with an idea, breaking it down into these pieces, exploring what does it mean to bring research in and to create this context in a project folder or one of these different tools we've used. And this is one way to start taking it to the next level. Like allow yourself to create a character operating system for a character. And this is just something that I threw together. You might have a deeper way to explain psychology than I do. You might have a more interesting set of Lego blocks to break down a character. Experiment here, have fun with it, but think about that idea of what if somebody who knows my character is sitting right next to me all the time. And every time I'm like, wait, what if I totally changed the script and did this over here? What happens? Somebody's there to say, well, that means that backstory about how everything leads back to their father is different. They're there for you. Your character therapist is never away, right? So that's kind of the utility of this. And I just want you guys to start to think this way. So I'll share this with you, but now I'm going to break this out into a shot list. And I'm going to say, okay, so let's go back to the script. Can you break this out into a shot-by-shot list that has scene descriptions and initial ideas on aesthetics? Okay, so this is now treating ChatGPT as a production partner, right? And again, Gemini does the exact same thing. None of this is that special. So it's going to start organizing my production, okay? So it's describing what it's doing, and here's my shot-by-shot list. It's even saying how many of there are. They're roughly 6 to 12 seconds in length. So here they are, shot by shot. I could cut and paste this into Figma, but it's a little bit busy for me, and I can always come back to this. I need something that's easy to just build a grid. Okay, I might even stop it because I don't feel like waiting for this. Actually, can you make this in like a very easy, terse grid that I'm able to then drop into Figma to start organizing a workflow document? So I'm even giving it context. Like where I'm going with this is I need to drop this into a Figma document. Like, can you think about that? Like, what does that look like? So it stopped what it was doing, and then here we go. Okay, now this is a lot more manageable, right? It even, and you guys are used to this little button, this like square on square button. Do you guys see that? So that just means I can just cut and paste this. So I'm going to copy it whenever it's done. Still going. Actually, it gave me the first one. That's good enough for me. So I'm going to go back to Figma. FigJam. I think it's a FigJam. Yeah, FigJam is the one that allows you to then share. So you create a FigJam, and I'm going to paste it right here. So there's my shot list. I can decide that's too many columns. Like maybe I really just care about, talk to ChatGPT, have it do the work for you. Don't waste your time in word processing. And then I have the initial board getting built. And then I just start organizing it from here. I can create shapes, text. It's just kind of a regular infinite canvas tool. But this is where we start. And again, this is your tool. It doesn't matter to me if you're an organized person. I'm just showing you where you can start organizing yourself. It won't be in a Google Drive. It'll be in something that looks like this because it is a visual experience that you're creating. And it's probably what you would put on that wall. Like just think about what you would do with that wall right now. You would probably put a list of shots. You'd probably put a list of references. We're going to learn how to use Midjourney in the next couple of weeks, and you'll see that there's very literally a mood board feature that speaks this language. And I think we'll also start fusing into this process. But this is part of the homework. So I just want you guys to make a pitch book. You guys have probably pitched things before. Come up with any idea. Maybe it's the greatest idea ever had, or maybe it's just one that ChatGPT wrote up for you because you just wanted an exercise for class. Go through the journey of getting a log line, getting a treatment. Spend some time even disagreeing with it. See what that's like if you haven't done that, where you're kind of creatively working with it. How do you get it to sort of be a creative partner? Okay. Then use it to build out your shot list. And then again, you could in ChatGPT do this, but if you're in Gemini, you can do a version of what I did with that wedding thing. Like just have it give you a quick lookbook of what the scenes look like. And again, we haven't learned image models tools, but I want you guys to see what happens when you just go there with ChatGPT or Gemini, whichever tool, of just start creating your storyboard with that shot list in mind. And we'll put it in homework, but that's basically, I think, where we're going to start getting used to starting a project. And again, we've learned about research. We've learned about how this can go deeper. When we get into advanced techniques, and I want to hear from you guys things that we wonder about, because then we can build a class around that. But that idea of a virtual writer's room, I think is a really good idea for later this semester. This idea of creating like virtual table reads, I think could be really interesting. But I want you guys to play with this, and let's talk next week of how we're going to revisit advanced techniques later in the semester. Have I missed anything?
Do you want to just pull up the slide that shows the homework?
Yeah.
And then
And also, I forgot to say at the beginning, there's a Google form that I'd love you guys all to fill out. It's just like me getting to know you guys and knowing who's into this stuff and who's not. I think Brooke sent it last week. We'll send it again. But that's just, some people have responded. And I think next week I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. But this is where we're at. Create a pitch deck. Use ChatGPT or Gemini to create initial images and storyboards. Again, we're going to learn how to properly world build, but just see, like, use this as your ideation tool to pitch your collaborators, maybe pitch somebody that wants to hear that idea that you told them over the phone. In one session, you should be able to give them something. And that's kind of where we're at now, is that minimally, this is the way to pitch ideas better. Use your LLM to generate that log line, how it can just whip up a treatment for you. If you want a script, you can, but you probably want to spend time with that. And then try this character breakdown. Try this idea of throwing in a picture of what your character might look like. And then for your own sake, try that character operating system idea. We'll send you a template for that. And then just a little bit of reading. I just want you guys to keep digging in on what's going on at the space. There's this guy called Doug Shapiro that is kind of like, I mean, you guys have this Canva deck. Sorry, what was your name again? Berlin shirt? Lewis? This is a link. You have to take a picture of it. You should, if Brooks hasn't sent it to you, like this will be in your inbox. But you can take a picture of it if it's nice looking. You should do it. Doug Shapiro, I think, is like kind of like an oracle to a lot of people in the space. If you go to something like AI in the Lot, which is a annual summit here in Los Angeles, that as you guys are more intrigued, I can loop you into events that are happening here. He was the keynote last year, and so Doug Shapiro was like a strategy and kind of like stats guy at Turner Networks. If you guys know what Turner Networks are, that was like TBS and a few different cable channels and major channels. His sort of life now is taking all of that understanding of like the sort of the legacy mediaverse, and he's like applying it to what's going on with AI and YouTube and streamers. Strongly recommend following him. If you use things like LinkedIn for more than just dropping your resume, his feed is very good. And this right here is what I just linked to you guys in the Canva deck. We'll link it again in homework that we send over. But it's his keynote speech. Like, this is the speech that he's been paid to take around America for like the last year. And it's just, I think it might be like 60 slides, but they're just slides, just like zip through them. It shouldn't take you a long time. I just think he is really establishing where are we in this sort of effect on the business we're in, the creative industry that we're in. I would very much like to hear what you guys think about it. I think it is as sharp an analysis as I think there is of what's going on. even beyond AI. Like he's the one that will compare the effects of AI to the effects of YouTube and streaming. That arguably Hollywood as an institution used to have two major strangleholds, distribution and production. Its ability to make something and share it with the world used to be something that you needed some friends in this town or places like this to broadcast it into those satellites and airwaves. YouTube threw that away, and like anybody can grind away and become Mr. Beast if they really wanted to. Okay, it's hard, but it's doable because they have decentralized distribution. TikTok, Instagram, taking that further. That's a huge thing that your generation may not even be able to fully appreciate. Like I watched it happen as I worked in cable TV. And we are dealing with a very different environment for television and media. That's distribution, and arguably a lot of different types of content. Now anybody can have a talk show. Anybody can sort of sort of take you on a travel log with like their GoPro. We still couldn't really make horror movies. We still couldn't really make fantasy. There's still some things that Hollywood and other types of big productions that Pixar or ILM or all the types of people that come through this building as guest speakers that they still had a unique position on. The debate is whether or not AI is now decentralizing that. And that's something that I think he puts into facts and figures. I think he puts some very sober ways of thinking about how we as creators, we as business people look at this. He's on the speaker circuit, like everybody's obsessed with him as a thought leader. So that's a really good synopsis for him. He is currently kind of building in public a book called Infinite Content, meaning that if you start to follow him, like he's literally dropping chapters on his LinkedIn and he's got like a Substack. And I know that like colleagues of mine that teach other types of AI classes, like that's their reading materials. If you guys want reading materials, that's probably something I would guide you towards. I'm trying to keep it light on reading materials and more on like the news cycle. But I think this is a good foundational thing for you guys to dig into. And we'll just talk about that next week. You don't need to like write an essay or anything. But please take a stab at this pre-production step. And we'll put that in an email today. Any questions, any reactions today, feedback? Did anything go too fast? Anything we upset about Wi-Fi here? How are we feeling? Yeah.
Are we going to go into the Claude coding thing?
I really want to.
Okay.
Again, this is me trying to adapt the syllabus. It wouldn't have been an obvious thing to spend time on, but I think it's going to be a big part of our lives in about a month. It's like there's like articles on the Ankler that are like that Claude code is going to completely change Hollywood. Because like we're now true, like that thing that last year everybody was like, oh, everything's going to get automated. Like this is the first time we're really seeing it. That you really can start to really create agentified workplaces, which is either terrifying or something that we need to learn about and think about why that's interesting to us. What I want to play with, the virtual writers room in Claude. I want to create an app. Because again, so while we have 1 minute.
I really need to take attendance also.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what's interesting about Claude and this whole mindset is what we've now perhaps started getting used to, of like, oh shit, anybody can be a graphic designer. I can just go on Midjourney and make something beautiful. Like that sort of like didn't know I could do that feeling, or that I didn't know I could just like make like a 30-second commercial or whatever it is that VO3 and these things are starting to create. That's now I can make software. And even like, what does software even mean? Like I thought software was like Microsoft Office and it's this big giant thing that somebody just makes for my company. No, software is like what you need. Like what are problems that you have? What are things that you wish you could do? You don't need some complicated room full of devs to make for you. You can come up with it. You can design it like an orchestrator and say like, I need something that kind of takes these things over here and puts them over here and helps me do my job better. And then somebody codes it for you. And that's like, I think so powerful. I can't people are creating games this way. People are creating workflows for their companies. And I want you guys to, if anybody's interested, that is the most valuable thing you could probably get out of the semester, is thinking like a software developer. Creative stuff, we have a century of people that have taught us how to be creative, and we're just going to keep adapting. This is actually new. This is actually new that a generation of people are suddenly software developers. I think it's a big deal. I'm glad you asked.
Let's just run through quick attendance before we leave. Normally we do this at the top, but
Yeah, sure.
cool.
Did we
Luke,
take a picture?
no, just Lucas. Okay. Hadia. Yep. Stephen Chen. Okay. Jose.
Here.
Great. Christine. Great. Jinrun. Great. Samuel. Yep. Anish. Yep. Liliana. Okay. Juan Liang. Yep. Great. Katarina. No Katarina. Okay. Cameron. No. Tianmi. Oh no, she's not here. Tyler. Vichy,
Oh, interesting.
Yinhan, great, and Hanyan.
That's interesting. We have 18 people, but a lot of people weren't here.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of new faces. So
Okay.
cool. We're
So
good.
is everybody sticking around? Some different people came last week and didn't come. I hope you guys stick around.
Great.
Next week we're going to get into character creation, and I'm going to ask you guys to have fun, like shooting yourselves and maybe running around the hallways. And then we're going to learn how to turn those into characters. So we'll start making stuff, I promise. But this is I hope this wasn't boring this week. I think this stuff is foundational, and I think if you can start to think this way, it can really empower what you're doing. But reach out to me on WhatsApp if anybody's got questions.